Again, I was teaching meditation. I've been teaching for a long time, and I was working with one particular student, very bright man, and he knew all the stages, he knew the techniques, he knew the data, but he wasn't progressing in the way that I thought he should be. I was perplexed. So I was just constantly thinking, what is going on here? Like, where's the block? And then all of a sudden, something so obvious occurred to me, which is that meditation is an intimacy practice. We're trying to become intimate with the present moment. Now, I know like Harry's a psychologist, and probably some of you are, and most of us have probably been in therapy or been on the other side of therapy. When somebody comes into a therapist's office, there's two movements that are simultaneously happening. I want to grow, and I also want to armor myself from growth. You see those two contradictory things. I want intimacy, and I also want to block any intimacy. And it suddenly occurred to me that exact same thing is happening in meditation. So here's the process I went through. I started realizing most of us, on one level, are sabotaging our meditation. But here's the problem with the word sabotage. If I were to say, Judy, you're sabotaging yourself. You're self-sabotaging. What's the quality of that?
Negative.
Yeah, it's a negative. And I realized, how can I talk about this in a way that's not negative? Because it's not a negative thing. So I finally, and you might think of something better, but I finally realized it's an armoring. See, armoring has less of a positive negative connotation. So yeah, I'm armoring myself. Guess what? That armoring has also kept you safe. It's kept you functioning in this difficult world. So there's no problem for the armoring. So, but as soon as as soon as you become aware that that's actually happening also, it becomes very helpful. Because what I realized with this man, I was like, he doesn't need any more techniques and he doesn't need to meditate more. He needs to drop the armoring. So now what I do, I teach these meditation trainings, usually like 9-month trainings. And the very first thing we do, we don't even start meditating. All we do is look for our 5 most common defense mechanisms. So just to become aware when they're popping up, because they will pop up in your meditation. Let me give you an example. I was in a fight with my girlfriend one time. I was wide awake, I was feeling fine, I was feeling energized, and we suddenly got into a fight, and I could not keep my eyes open. I was just fading, right? That didn't go over very well with her. Because she's interpreting that as like, you care so little about this relationship, you want to go to sleep right now? But what was happening is I was in a self-defense mechanism. I was an unconscious armoring, where I was falling asleep because it was so painful. And I had no idea that was happening. I'm like, why am I sound asleep like right now? I cannot stay awake. And the minute the fight ended, I was awake. I was like, I don't need a nap, So I was like, what is that? So that's one of my personal, I've discovered 5 of my most common defense mechanisms. And I know that's one of them. Guess what happens when I get into meditation and I'm starting to become intimate? All right? So now there is a type of sleepiness that's unrelated to that comes up in meditation, which is called dullness, and we'll talk about that, and that's just, we have to conquer that. But there is a type of sleepiness that's just a defense mechanism, So again, find those defense mechanisms, those ways that you typically armor yourself, and I recommend write them down, literally write them down. They'll always come in one of 2 varieties: a desire to control or avoid. That's, if we look at all the different defense mechanisms, they kind of fall in one of those 2 categories: a desire to control things or a desire to avoid things. And there's some, obviously, permeations between those 2.